Back live. Welcome back to our continuing coverage of elections 2016. We come to you live from the ROC, the National Rock, as we like to call it, the Results Operations Center. Now, parties have set their sights on securing the youth vote. Now, some surveys suggest that young people are more concerned with protesting for quality education and job creation than actually participating in the upcoming elections. To discuss young people's views on elections, we're now joined in studio by Lauren Tracy. This is a researcher at the Institute for Security Studies. Lauren, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Interesting survey. In terms of the information, how did you base your research?
So we try to understand the voting behavior of young South Africans. The age group we were looking at are 18 to 24-year-olds, first-time voters, because we believe this is quite an important demographic in terms of eligible voting population in South Africa.
Yeah.
So what we did is we went across to all the 9 provinces in South Africa. We went into public schools, independent schools, FET colleges and universities, and we spoke to a little over 2,000 young people, doing one-on-one interviews and focus group discussions to try and understand what the factors are that would influence them to go out and vote in an election or not.
So in terms of what you found, how are youth approaching these elections?
Right, so the concerns that the young people mentioned were particularly related to their social economic challenges that they continue to face. So your unemployment is a major factor for young people and whether they decide to go out and vote in an election. Corruption, particularly as it relates to the political elite, were some of the factors that came across in our research. They also were very concerned about the inequality that they see between urban and rural areas, poor infrastructure, poor education. So these were all factors that they said could possibly deter them from going out and participating in an election.
What would they want political parties to do in terms of engaging them ahead of the local government elections?
Right, so you hit the nail on the head. They want political parties to engage young people. At the moment, the demographic we looked at, your 18 to 24-year-old age group, feel very alienated from formal democratic processes such as the elections. They don't feel as though their voices are being heard or their challenges being addressed. In fact, they would rather opt to, demonstrate or take part in protest activity, as we saw with the Fees Must Fall movement, in order to get the challenges that they face addressed. They also mentioned not only wanting political parties to come to them at the time of an election when they need their vote, to actually actively engage with youth in the lead up to elections long before an election period.
But we've seen the youth especially engaging in social media, isn't it? They're talking about politics, they're talking about current issues. Do you think political parties could use social media more effectively?
Definitely. It's a great platform to attract this youth vote that they're after. These are the platforms young people use to engage in political debates, to find out what's going on in the country. This is the avenue they turn to where they have these kinds of discussions. So definitely social media is one area that political parties could engage young people.
What else are they looking at in terms of, look, we know they're worried about unemployment, they're worried about job creations.
Right.
Are there generic issues that carry from youth to older people? Are there similar issues?
So similar issues, in fact, interestingly, we're finding that young people are diverting from what the older cohorts did. And this is particularly in terms of your 18 to 19-year-olds. They're more open to change. They're more open to changing their votes and not voting, with the allegiance that their parents have been voting. We do find with your 20 to 24-year-olds, they would rather opt out of voting. They're not too sure that there is a political party that meets their needs at the moment. And they refer to political parties in general. They may not be happy with the current ruling party, but again, they would rather abstain from voting than change their vote to another political party.
So are we saying, and I'm not sure if your research has found that there are still a lot of undecided youth voters out there?
Definitely. Yeah. That's exactly what the research study is picking up. Young people are quite confused with who they're going to vote for, what the election process entails. There is this confusion around it. So they're not too sure if they're actually going to go out and participate.
So you're saying in terms of the election process, they're still not too cleared up about that as well?
I think, what we found in the research study, particularly relating to your first-time voters, your 18 to 19-year-olds and rural youth, they weren't often aware of voter education programs that were being run. They weren't sure if they could vote in the province province that they were. So the dynamics around an election and, whether they understand it came across in the research study. And as I say, particularly with your first-time voters.
Yeah. So you reckon more education programs targeting the youth is needed?
Definitely. One of the recommendations from the research study was there is a need to review civic and voter education programs in South Africa. The IEC is doing a commendable job in trying to reach these young people. But what we did find that in as much that curricular strategies try and engage young people's knowledge and understanding of democratic processes, they need to look at young people's trust in government, trust that government will provide to their demands. That's another dynamic that we should probably consider when we look at civic and voter education programs.
Why are they not taking the initiative on themselves to find out more?
Right. They are. Again, it's a platform that they don't feel brings change at the moment. They're constantly through this turnaround. We don't see change in our communities. An election takes too long. They're a now generation. They want to see change happening now. And for them, protesting gets that message across. It gets government active in addressing the challenges that they face. Voting is not necessarily seen as the platform that they can do that on.
Okay, that's where we'll have to leave it. Lauren Tracy, researcher, Governance, Crime and Justice Division, Institute for Security Studies here in Pretoria. Thank you very much indeed for your time.